there's a couple different ways that this can be accomplished and real kind of methods that really help with this. There's many others as well, but I'm going to go into two ones that I believe are really powerful in this process. And so the first is what we've been talking about these first few sessions, which is about nervous system regulation, learning how to relax and breathe and bring some light pressure to some of these areas of the body that we feel the anxiety or shame or depression or self-doubt. And again, really identifying where these live in the body, using breath, using physical touch, using meditation, using our affirmations, our mantras of self-compassion and kindness for these parts. So that's number one. And we've already covered that, so I'm not going to cover that today. And the second thing is start to work with the inner child, is to start to really let yourself feel and visualize certain parts of your childhood, maybe certain ages where that split in the psyche first started to happen. So that could be a major trauma you experienced, or it could be just a period of your life where you felt alone or emotionally misattuned to, where your needs were not getting met. That could be from an absent parent or alcoholism in the family, any form of physical abuse or sexual abuse, any time where there was a kind of a split in the psyche, where there was a wounding that took place. And so you can start to tune in, and often this is helpful to do as you close your eyes, but take a few minutes and close your eyes and just start to feel into like, where in my childhood did I experience some of these hard, traumatic moments? And so when you start to sit, all of a sudden some memories might arise or some visions of yourself at a certain age. And it's good to try and approximate that age range. So for instance, when I experienced a big trauma in my life, I was at 3 years old, and I don't have all of the memories of being 3 years old and experiencing that trauma. But as I've gotten more and more into my inner child work, that age just kept coming up in my awareness or my consciousness. And so I started to pay attention, like what was going on at that age, that 3-year-old age. And I started to realize more and more how much was happening in my life that was really traumatic at that time. And so one other exercise that I did and that you can do is find a picture of yourself at that age, or a few pictures, and to start to just kind of look at yourself, even if you don't have conscious memories, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but just start to look at a picture, or in your mind's eye, start to visualize what you were going through at that time. And then our job, both in just our normal experience and also in meditation, starting to bring love and compassion to that particular age. And as part of that, starting to really feel into yourself, like what would I have needed to hear at that age? What did I need? Did I need protection? Did I need someone to tell me that I was loved or that I was safe? Would I need more playfulness, more joy, more safety? And you start to tune in to what you needed at that age, and then you start to consciously give yourself what you needed at that particular age range. And it might be in your exploration, you might remember a time when you were 5 years old when you really needed something that you didn't get, or 13, or 17, or 20. It doesn't really matter. It's really tuning into parts of your life and times when you went through really intense things or hard things, and tuning back in to what did I need. So again, another example. So when I discovered that at 3 years old I experienced this trauma, and that trauma left me very dysregulated, very anxious, a ton of shame, really, really intense emotional feelings, dissociation, a lot around safety, so a ton around like safety. And so when I started to realize that, I started to develop some affirmations around safety. I would close my eyes and say, when I noticed myself very anxious or dysregulated, or feeling shame, I would say to myself, I'm safe, I am loved, I'm protected. And I would repeat that, I'm safe, I'm loved, I'm protected, over and over again, and really touching into that part of me at 3 years old that was really, really scared, really, really dysregulated, really anxious, really, really ashamed. And so you start to really tune into what did I need back then, and how can I as an adult now consciously give that to my younger self at these different age ranges where we experience trauma with love, compassion, positive words of affirmation, protection, deep peace and and regulation. So basically, like these parts of self that needed more support of the nervous system, consciously visualizing yourself at 3 years old or 7 or 12, and actually like giving yourself those positive affirmations, putting a hand on your heart, giving yourself peace and breath and regulation, and actually even visualizing your adult self time traveling and going back and protecting that child, protecting yourself at a younger age, giving yourself a hug at a younger age, taking yourself to go and do something fun and playful, go get ice cream or go out into nature together. But you really start to use this process as an imagination process, as a, it's kind of like Carl Jung called it the active imagination. You start to work with the psyche, and you you time travel in a sense, and are able to connect back with your young self at these different ages where you experience trauma. And as you develop more of a conscious relationship with yourself, at those ages, you start to integrate. You start to integrate and back in these shadow parts, this orphaned inner child. You start to reintegrate it back into your body and mind and nervous system. And it's an extremely powerful thing. Another thing you can do is when you tune into yourself at a certain age, you can dialogue with yourself, asking your young self, like, what do you need? What do you need? What do you need from me? What can I do to help you, support you, protect you? And so you can do a question and answer thing where you ask a question and really listen for the response. Or it may be just nonverbal, and it might be more of a thing where you start to visualize yourself, and maybe your young self in your psyche starts to interact with you. There have been people who I know, and clients in the past who I know, who it's taken days or weeks or months of this kind of practice for the child to actually even like turn to face them. And that's okay too. You have to be very patient with this process, because some of the times when we've experienced a lot of trauma, our young self has been really neglected for many, many years or even decades. And the young self is really apprehensive when you start to interact with it in this conscious way, and doesn't really trust you fully because you've been in a state of dysregulation or anxiety, depression, or whatever it might be, and you've really banished this young self to the shadow. The young self doesn't feel safe, and it's going to take time for the young self in you, the young child, to start to trust you and to start to interact with you. So I really encourage you to be patient with this process, but as you continue to do it, as you continue to bring awareness and love to this young self, your young self will begin to trust you and begin to interact with you, and you'll begin to develop this kind, loving relationship with yourself. And this is a process of befriending yourself. It's a process of reparenting, being the good parent that young child needed, or that protector or caregiver that would have been there for them and reassured them and said that everything is going to be okay. So again, I really encourage you guys to start this process. You can't do it wrong. You just start to tune in to what your young self needs at what age, and then start to just be present with that young self, and just allowing the intelligence of your psyche and your body and yourself to reconnect with this, with the young self or the inner child.